The High Court of Kerala has ruled that an accused who had been granted pre-arrest bail cannot be remanded to judicial custody. The court further held that the bail thus obtained shall remain in force unless the same is cancelled by the court which granted it or by a higher court. The Supreme Court has dismissed a plea of a 92-year-old murder convict seeking exemption from surrendering before police. The Supreme Court dismissed the special leave petition filed by the convict against the judgment by Lucknow bench of Allahabad High Court, which had upheld his conviction by the trial court. The incident is related to an honor killing which happened in the year 1980 in the Unnao district in Uttar Pradesh. The trial court had convicted 3 persons in the murder. All of them were sentenced by the trial court for life imprisonment. The Conservator of Forest and Wildlife has urged the Bombay High Court to decide on the fate of around 500 exotic birds and animals rescued by the police. Earlier, Conservator M.M. Kulkarni was asked by the court to give a report on 2 NGOs that have the required facilities to rehabilitate birds and animals. In his affidavit filed before the High Court, Kulkarni stated that a team of experts visited 2 NGOs, Animal Rescue and Rehabilitation Centre in Katraj and My Vets Charitable Trust and Research Centre in Panvel, and checked their facilities, which were found to be good enough to house the rescued birds and animals. The Supreme Court did not put on hold the centre's order on culling of nilgai and wild boars in Bihar and Uttarakhand and monkeys in Himachal Pradesh. It also did not issue any interim order on the matter, which will now be taken up on July 15th. The court, however, permitted the activists who had filed a PIL on the issue to make representations to the central government and state governments. The US Supreme Court is likely to take a call today on the legality of the semi-automatic rifles used in the recent mass shooting at Orlando nightclub in Connecticut. It would decide a challenge to a Connecticut prohibition of semi-automatic rifles. Gun rights groups and individual firearm owners have been advocating that the Connecticut prohibition of semi-automatic rifles violates the US Constitution's Second Amendment guarantee of the right to bear arms. The Obama administration's proposal to revive its 2014 plan to protect up to 4 million people from deportation could be taken up by the Supreme Court in the coming days. The administration has faced criticism from the states on the proposal. The states have sued the administration and argued that the plan is illegal and contravenes the current federal immigration law. On the contrary, the administration has held that the states have no legal basis to litigate, as immigration law falls under the ambit of the federal government. By the end of June 2006, the US Supreme Court will also give rulings in major high-profile cases such as racial preferences in university admissions, unilateral immigration plan, and a restrictive Texas abortion law. A legal document submitted by the Asia Pacific Institute of International Law, or APIIL, at the Permanent Court of Arbitration at The Hague may lead to the deferment of an international tribunal's ruling on territorial claims in the South China Sea. The 41-page legal document maintains that the case is beyond the jurisdiction of the Permanent Court of Arbitration, or PCA, in The Hague. Earlier on June 6, 2016, the APIIL had filed an amicus curiae brief on the arbitration led by the Philippines to the tribunal. Several lawyers and legal luminaries from China's Hong Kong, Britain and Australia endorsed the brief. A recent judgment of the Himachal Pradesh High Court held that lack of injury marks on the body of a rape survivor does not disprove that rape took place. The High Court said that absence of injury on the body of the accused, or for that matter, prosecutrix, would not render her version in any manner to be false or doubtful. Exact location of the angle in which she was subjected to intercourse cannot be left to the imagination of the doctor, in whose view there ought to have been some marks on the buttocks of the prosecutrix. After all, there were injury marks on the face of the prosecutrix, which she has stated to be on account of gagging of her mouth. The rape victim survivor was a young village girl, a student of class 10th, who had gone out to the fields at night to relieve herself when she was attacked by the accused and raped. Her aunt, who came out at that time, witnessed the incident and called other women to the spot. Upon arrival of the women, the accused fled. The rape survivor's testimony, along with the testimony of the witnesses plus the other evidence, were anyway sufficient to convict the accused. The accused put up an argument that the complaint was filed with the police after one full day. The court, however, found that the delay occurred because the head of the family was away at that time. It observed that in rural areas, generally people are reluctant to report the matter till the arrival of the head of the family. Thus, there is no delay in lodging the FIR. With criminals jumping ship to escape the long arm of the law at home, the 1969 Supreme Court ruling in state of West Bengal versus Jugal Kishore More gains importance. In this case, the accused Jugal Kishore More was convicted for criminal conspiracy in foreign exchange violation. The accused had an address in Hong Kong where he fled to after committing the offence. He was later extradited from Hong Kong for trial. However, he challenged his extradition on the basis that it was without authority in the absence of a notified order under Section 3 of the Extradition Act 1962, which could have added Hong Kong to the list of countries to which the act was applicable. The Calcutta High Court had quashed the extradition. However, the verdict was overruled by the Supreme Court, which stated, "But that did not, in our judgment, operate as a bar to the requisition made by the Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India, if they were able to persuade the Colonial Secretary Hong Kong to deliver More for trial in the country. If the Colonial Secretary of Hong Kong was willing to hand over More for trial in this country, it cannot be said that the warrant issued by the Chief Presidency Magistrate for the arrest of More, with the aid of which requisition for securing his presence from Hong Kong was to be made, was illegal." The court observed that extradition is founded on the broad principle that it is in the interest of civilized communities that crimes should not go unpunished, and on that account it is recognized as a part of the Committee of Nations that one state should ordinarily afford to another state assistance towards bringing offenders to justice. In May 2016, the Delhi High Court granted a decree of divorce to a man on the ground that he suffered mental cruelty from his wife. The wife wanted to live apart from her in-laws ever since she was married, but the husband did not comply. She later behaved in a violent and erratic manner towards her husband and in-laws. This was borne out by testimonies from witnesses and a letter written by her to the husband while she was staying with her parents. They had been living separately for a long time, and earlier the trial court had ignored the fact that her petition for restitution of conjugal rights has been dismissed. In this appeal by the husband, the Delhi High Court pointed out that the trial court had disbelieved one of the witnesses, who had claimed that the wife misbehaved with her husband in front of him, on the ground that he was known to the husband's family. It ruled that family, friends, and persons known to the parties would be the most natural witnesses in the matrimonial case. The Supreme Court's guidelines on mental cruelty, as spelled out in an earlier case, were also referred to by the High Court. Of great concern was the fact that the wife had threatened the husband's family in a letter with veiled references to filing cases against them. She did, in fact, resort to filing cases under the Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act 2005, which failed for non-prosecution. Such attempts to misuse the law as a weapon to threaten anyone cannot be condoned. In this instance, it certainly formed a part of a chain of behavior demonstrating mental cruelty. The quantum of sentence for 24 convicts in the Gulbarg Society massacre was finally pronounced today by Special SIT Court. It awarded life imprisonment to 11 out of the 24 convicts, while 12 others were handed 7 years of punishment and one convict was given 10 years imprisonment. On June 2nd, the court had convicted 11 persons for murder and other offences, while remaining 13 others were charged with lesser offences. 69 people, including former Congress MP Ehsan Zafri, were killed in the Gulbarg Society massacre. 14-year-old rape survivor has been allowed by the Gujarat High Court to terminate her 22-week pregnancy. The court contended that abortion was in the best interest of the teenager. The survivor had filed a petition for abortion on the grounds of her tender age. She had stated in the petition that the continuance of the pregnancy would have dire consequences on her health and well-being. According to the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act, abortion is prohibited beyond a 20-week pregnancy. The constitutional validity of Section 18 of the Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises Development Act 2006 was upheld by the High Court of Madras. The petition filed by Refex Energy Limited had said that the company for the supply of galvanized steel structures, solar module mounting structures had placed 3 work orders with Passive Infra Projects Private Limited. But Passive Infra Projects Private Limited, due to disagreement, filed claim petition under Section 18 of the MSMED Act 2006 against Refex Energy Limited. Even after a month, state governments have not complied on the directions of the Supreme Court to provide relief to the drought-affected people, social activists have alleged. The activists who visited the drought-hit areas found that the Supreme Court order on implementing various central schemes to provide relief to distressed farmers remained non-existent. Social activists in a report lambasted the non-compliance of states and centre on the issue, citing that mitigation measures including farm loan restructuring, implementation of midday meal schemes, disbursement of crop loss compensation and providing employment through MGNREGA were not acted upon. In a unanimous decision, the US Supreme Court ruled that the Department of Veteran Affairs was unsuccessful to abide by a law intended at raising the quantity of federal contracts given to small businesses owned by handicapped old-timers. The court upheld the petition of a veteran-owned contractor, Kingdomware Technologies, saying that it should have been reckoned to render services for a VA medical center. A Japanese court has upheld an order to halt Takama nuclear reactors. Operator of the reactors Kansai Electric Power said in a statement that it was very regrettable that the petition for stay of execution was not approved, hoping that the court would cancel the injunction soon. On March 9th, the Otsu District Court had ordered Kansai Electric to shut down the reactors in Fukui, the capital of Fukui Prefecture along the Sea of Japan. The Special Court of Ahmedabad will pronounce the quantum of punishment to the 24 held guilty in the Gulbarg Society massacre case. The Punjab and Haryana High Court will hear the petition urging to lift the interim stay on the reservation given to 6 castes, including the Jats. During the last hearing on 6th of June, the High Court had refused to remove the stay. A division bench of the Allahabad High Court will hear a petition challenging the alleged flouting of rules in the recruitment of 72,000 paramilitary force personnel. A single bench had dismissed the petition in this regard. The Lucknow bench of the Allahabad High Court will hear a petition by IPS officer Amitabh Thakur, who was not allowed to go to Mathura by the state government after the Jawahar Bagh incident. The Bombay High Court recently lambasted the Brihan Mumbai Municipal Corporation or BMC. The court pulled it up for not filling potholes before the arrival of monsoon and asked BMC to make sure these are repaired quickly. While hearing a suo motu PIL on the rising potholes in the city, the court showed concern that these were leading to accidents and deaths of motorists. While placing its compliance report in the High Court, the BMC informed that 90% of the road repair and maintenance work in the city had been completed and the remaining 10% would be finished before the onset of monsoon this year. The BMC also apprised the court that 2 helpline numbers had been set up for citizens to call and lodge complaints, and a mobile app was also launched. According to a source, a number of PILs are filed against BMC every year. These relate to sewage, solid waste management, potholes, banners and advertisements, as well as dumping yards. However, over the years, the municipal body has come up with innovative methods to resolve the complaints of Mumbaikars. BMC is the richest municipal corporation in India. The Iranipalam Special Additional Sessions Court in Kozhikode, Kerala today acquitted 17 accused in connection with the murder of Democratic Youth Federation of India worker Shibin at Vellore. Shibin was hacked to death on the night of January 22 in 2015. His 6 friends also sustained injuries. The investigating team, led by Kuttiadi Circle Inspector Dinesh Koroth, had filed the charge sheet against the accused on April 18th at the Nadapuram First Class Magistrate Court. They were charged for murder under Section 302, attempt to murder under Section 307, voluntarily causing hurt by dangerous weapons or means under Section 324, inciting riots under Section 147, harboring offender under Section 212 and destroying evidence under Section 201. Former Revenue Minister of Maharashtra Eknath Khadse did not exchange any call with gangster Dawood Ibrahim. This was the conclusion arrived at by Maharashtra's Anti-Terror Squad or ATS after thorough investigations. Sources said the ATS may file a case against whistleblower Manish Bhangale. Bhangale had alleged that Khadse made several calls on a mobile number in Pakistan that belonged to the underworld don. Sources said the ATS has extensively checked phone records of the period that Bhangale mentions in his allegations. The ATS has also checked records for the last few years but found no exchange of calls between the BJP leader and Dawood Ibrahim. Bhangale has been given a month to respond by the ATS and explain his allegations. The US Appeals Court upheld the Obama government's net neutrality rules that require internet providers to treat all web traffic equally. This landmark judgment could become a precursor for other governments which are seeking a solution on net neutrality. The court upheld the Federal Communications Commission's net neutrality rules which prohibit broadband providers from giving or selling access to speedy internet, essentially a fast lane on the web's information superhighway, to certain internet services over others.
The Supreme Court on August 23rd will hear petitions challenging the constitutionality of entry tax in various states in India. The court will hear over 2,000 cases filed by manufacturers and associations challenging the levy of entry tax by various states. The Apex Court on August 23rd will hear a PIL asking for directions from the court to interfere in the defaulters case, who owe more than Rs 500 crores each to the banks. The petitioner is likely to submit certain issues for consideration of this court. The Apex Court will hear a PIL on August 23rd relating to the prevalent inhuman conditions in prison in the country. The court had earlier directed the states and the Inspector General of Prisons to prepare a plan of action either to reduce overcrowding or to augment the infrastructure so that there is more space available in the prisons. The Apex Court will hear on August 23rd a special leave petition filed against judgment of Delhi High Court, directing investigation into funds received by Indian National Congress Party and Bharatiya Janata Party from foreign companies. The Apex Court will hear on August 23rd a PIL against advertisements which violate the legal provisions under the Preconception and Prenatal Diagnostic Techniques Act 1994. The Supreme Court on August 23rd will hear a PIL on HVP vaccine experiment. The experiment is a serious breach of medical ethics and a clear-cut violation of the human rights of girl child and adolescents. The Apex Court on August 23 will hear a plea in which the petitioner has prayed for the issue of a writ or direction to the Government of India to do a fair and complete investigation of the allegations made against the PricewaterhouseCoopers. Supreme Court will preside upon the proceedings of August 23rd related to defamation suit against Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi, in which he had accused the RSS for the murder of Mahatma Gandhi. The top court of India will hear on August 23rd a writ petition with regard to Jallikettu, a traditional sport of South India, especially in Tamil Nadu and Andhra Pradesh, where bulls are used in the sport. The Bulandshahr Fast Track Court 2 on August 23rd will start the proceedings on recent Bulandshahr gang rape incident in which mother and daughter were allegedly raped. Earlier, Allahabad High Court had ordered the CBI probe into the incident. The Allahabad High Court will hear a petition on August 23rd registered by the Akhilesh Yadav government asking for no investigation by the CBI on the illegal mining. The Bombay High Court will hear on August 23rd the matter on Jia Khan murder case in which CBI had submitted their report in the court. The court is likely to deliver its judgment on this matter. The Uttarakhand High Court will hear a plea on August 23rd pertaining producer-director Rakesh Roshan, who was accused of lifting many scenes as portrayed in a novel for his film Krish 3. The plea filed by Roop Narayan Sonkar, a writer by profession from Dehradun, registered a case in the High Court saying many scenes from the film had been inspired from his novel Suvadar. The Supreme Court on August 22nd will hear a PIL seeking directions with regard to patients lodged in mental hospitals, even after being cured in hospitals like UP, Rajasthan, Meghalaya and Kerala. On last hearing, notice was issued by Supreme Court. The Apex Court on August 22nd will examine a report to be filed by petitioner JNK National Panthers Party on the Solicitor General's status report on ground realities in Kashmir. National Panthers Party had filed the PIL urging to introduce amendment in Article 370 in the Constitution of India by deleting Clause 3 of Article 370, which bars the supreme power of the Parliament to amend any provision of Article 370. The Supreme Court will hear a PIL praying to issue a writ mandamus to Union of India to exempt bamboo from the purview of transit pass regulations. The Supreme Court on August 22nd will hear a PIL filed to issue directions to the respondent to immediately have an authentication mechanism in place to safeguard the nation and ensure no threat of life of thousands of genuine visitors, passengers accessing government facilities every day. The Supreme Court on August 22nd will continue the proceedings of the writ petition filed with regard to formulating a suitable policy or scheme for better working conditions and matters relating thereto for a large number of porters working with the Indian Army. The Supreme Court on August 22nd will hear a civil appeal alleging that the trustees of one trust, along with others, had raised crores of rupees as donations from certain donors from India and abroad by projecting the plight of the affected persons of Gulbarga Society massacre in the aftermath of the Gothra riot. They had told the victims of the society that they would build a museum on that place where the society once stood, but it was never built. The Supreme Court will hear a PIL filed against the rampant malpractices in slaughterhouses, notably improper waste disposal of slaughtered animals. The Bombay High Court will hear petitions seeking directions to remove the illegal Shiv Vada Pav stalls by political party Shiv Sena. The Bombay High Court will hear petition on August 22nd seeking directions regarding preservation of heritage structures in Mumbai and in the state. The Bombay High Court will hear the matter on August 22nd concerning Leander Pace and Riya Pillai divorce case. The order is expected on the custody of the daughter. Both Leander and Riya won the custody. The Lucknow bench of Allahabad High Court will hear the matter on the investigation of missing witness of Rahul Sachan on Asaram case by CBI. The Lucknow bench of Allahabad High Court will hear the matter on the recruitment of Urdu teachers. The Allahabad High Court on August 22nd will hear the case on Bulandshahr rape case. Earlier, the court had transferred the Bulandshahr gang rape case probe to CBI. The court had also said that it aimed to keep an eye on investigation into the case. The Tees Hazare Court will hear the matter on the cancellation of bail against Abhay Chautala. Chautala left for Brazil to watch Rio Olympics without taking permission from the court.
The Supreme Court will today hear petitions challenging the constitutionality of entry tax in various states in India. The court is expected to hear over 2,000 cases filed by manufacturers and associations challenging the levy of entry tax. The petition states that the entry tax to the tune of Rs 30,000 crores is collected by various states. The Apex Court will hear a writ petition today filed by an MBBS aspirant who did not attend the common medical entrance test conducted by State of Gujarat under the impression that NEET is the only recognized entrance test following the Supreme Court order. In the last hearing, the court issued a notice and directed the Gujarat government to find a solution for the matter. The Supreme Court will hear today a petition of an alleged rape victim challenging constitutional validity of Section 3(2)(b) of Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act 1971. MTP prohibits termination of pregnancy after 20 weeks even if there is a fatal risk to the mother and her fetus. Family Court at Mumbai will hear a petition today concerning the payment of court fee by women. According to the petition, the women are exempted of court fee as per the notification dated October 1st, 1994 by the Maharashtra government. The Family Court have now framed guidelines in which it is stated that if maintenance is claimed by male child and it is filed through the mother, still she has to pay the court fee. The judge at the Family Court had directed the mother to pay the court fee for claiming maintenance for a male child. The special CBI court at Panchkula will hear a case today regarding Dera Sacha Sauda chief Gurmeet Ram Rahim, who has been charged for sexual abuse of a sadhvi. The High Court of Punjab and Haryana will hear a case on the interim stay on Jat reservation. The CBI court will hear a case on Aircel Maxis deal today. The bail petition of former Telecom Minister Dayanidhi Maran and his brother Kalanidhi Maran along with 4 others have been pending in the court. The Allahabad High Court will examine an affidavit today by concerned officials on the status of putting the ban on sale and purchase of chewing tobacco and also removing the ads in the circle of 500 meters of courts and educational institutions in Allahabad. The court on the previous hearing had directed the officials to submit an affidavit on the matter. The Apex Court issued a